All right, so hello again. Yes, new location. I'm up in Santa Barbara right now at my parents' house. It's like 3 in the morning or something. I'm not on crystal meth with those pupils. Um, but I had to be up here anyway. And I apologize that the frequency of videos has been not, what it once was. Honestly, I'm just trying to hustle to provide for my family right now, and I got a writing opportunity that I had to jump on, and so most of my energy and attention has to go to that. I mean, it's not really optional for me. YouTube's hardly monetizing my stuff anymore. I don't know why. They partially monetize it, so they still show ads, but give me like a fraction of what I should be earning. So I think what I'm gonna do is start a Patreon account. People have been recommending that, and I'll do like one exclusive video a week, and there'll be different tiers of membership, but I think it'll start at like $1. If you can't come off $1 a month for me, then I must be doing something wrong. So, the album's still available. It's in the link. Thank you guys for people that have bought it, and for the over 8,000 of you that haven't. I don't know. I don't get it. There's Johnny Depp, Tommy Chong, Boston George, Dirt Nasty, Nick Stahl, Freeway Ricky Ross. Just Johnny Depp alone doing Hunter S. Thompson stuff. Well, worth $10 to me. I would pay $10 for that. And for all you people that say that I beg for money, you can suck my dick. Speaking of dicks, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's because I have embittered certain members of my demographic, no pun, but people keep sending me wiener shots like, hey fool, is this wiener bomb? And I'm like, no. But they're coming in at like an alarming rate now. It's like a barrage of dicks, and they come in at like inappropriate times. Like, I'll be like at the grocery store, I'm like, yeah, I feel I can write books and check this out. And then like a push notification will come up, just a big old hammer cock swinging like a pendulum. And I'm like, and then, people are getting the wrong idea about me. So, one person in particular, this weirdo from Canada named Billy Young, he sent me a dick shot. He's got a really beautiful wife, and his dick is smaller than mine. I mean, that's like really almost a deformity. That's shit that, that particular dick shot I saved. It's my wallpaper. Anytime my wife is like, your dick is small, I'm like, Billy Young's dick. His personality must be bomb as fuck. And I've already cussed so much. I think if you do it in the first 5 minutes, you are partially monetized, so who gives a fuck? Let's just move on and do the story now. So, last time, I keep forgetting where the story leaves off. I really like standing, by the way. I feel like I can like pace, and, people are like, oh my God, you move, you must be on crystal meth. It's no, motherfucker. I'm naturally like that. I have ADHD. Secondly, I'm still coming off subs, post-acute withdrawal for any synthetic opioid or anything that stimulates the opiate receptors, makes you rock back and like you're restless. That's like symptomatic of kicking. So, and I also get the Suboxone brain, which is super annoying because I can't remember where I was in the story. One thing I want to address though, before we really get into the story, is like some people have commented, they're like, I thought your wife, my ex-wife, was pregnant at the time doing all these drugs. I forgot to mention, I guess, that she got an abortion. I mean, pretty quickly after. I don't even remember that I ever mentioned that before. But when she came out of the bathroom and she's like, I'm pregnant, I'm like, kill that baby. Which, I am pro-choice, but that's still pretty tacky thing to say to someone that's pregnant. And I don't know, if it was anyone else, I would feel bad, but I don't feel bad because she's a monster. Thank God that I don't have a kid with her. So that's what happened with that. I think where we left off, this screenwriter of topless, goes to carnivals or whatever he had written, moved in with me. And he was like this really tall guy, and he's kind of he wasn't a bad guy. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that he was the scumbag. I most certainly was, and my wife was even more of a scumbag than me at the time. But you know, I had told this guy like, hey, I'm for sure not on drugs anymore, and I was straight up strung out again, and now my wife was as well. He lasted at my house maybe 2 weeks, and you know, a bunch of stuff had happened during that time that made him uncomfortable, I guess is the best way to put that. Rigs rigs were everywhere. One night my ex-wife and I had gone out, we partied all night, we went to a strip club, we were doing coke and getting lap dances, and we got home at probably 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes we got sketchy babysitters off Craigslist for her kid, and I pulled into my parking spot because, you know, at apartment complexes, you typically have a numbered parking slot that you go into. And forget what mine was, let's just say 39. So that's where I'm supposed to park, at 39. And it's like the sun's coming up. I've been doing cocaine all night long, smell like strippers. My ex-wife was cool with all that. She was getting lap dances too. And I pull into my spot and I just straight hit the car next to mine. Like, put a serious dent in the door of this. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. I guess I went in so crooked because I was so like yayed out and drunk that and on heroin, that I hit the car, and this huge dent went in the door, and like it scraped paint off. Like, there were like tiger stripes of paint missing. So I'm like, fuck, there's no way I didn't even know who had the spot next to mine. There's no way they're not going to know that, you know, I hit their car. I mean, my bumper had their paint on. It was like it was a white car. There was like white paint on my bumper, and there was this huge dent. And it was like, there was no other way that this could have happened. So, you know how it is when you do coke and you like come home from somewhere, the sun's up, and it's like kryptonite. You're like shriveling, you're like shrinking in the sun because you're just like, you feel like, like in cartoons when flowers just shrivel because of whatever. That was a horrible analogy, but yeah, let's just say the sun was irritating us because we're all coked out and we've been out all night. We go up to our apartment. I had like a fifth of whiskey there, and the screenwriter's like passed out in the living room, and we just kind of like hurry past him, and I'm getting myself a drink, pouring myself a drink, and my ex-wife leaves, and she goes somewhere. I don't know where she goes, but when she comes back, I'm like, where'd you go? I'm all paranoid. I thought she like sucked someone's dick like in the park, which in all actuality probably could have happened, you know? Yes, I was paranoid, but she was a hoe, you know? And I'm like, where were you? And she like pulls out a Sharpie with this like mischievous look, and she's like, I colored the car. Like there was like white paint on our bumper, and I guess she went and like got the Sharpie and tried to like, cause they were white streaks, you know, for whatever reason. And she like marked these white streaks off. So maybe it was a white car. I don't even know. I don't remember. This is a few years ago, and it's really not that important. But what I do know is she tried to conceal it with a Sharpie. And I'm like, that's probably like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I go and I look at it, and now it looks like the car's fucked up because the dent's still there. There's these stripes, and there's like marker all over it. So it looks like somebody hit it and then tried to conceal it. It looks worse than it did before. I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking? She's like, I don't know. Ooh, when you do coke, you're so mean. I'm like, okay, well, we're probably going to get in trouble for that. I mean, technically that's a hit and run, isn't it? I don't think you can like hit a car and like just go about your business like we did. But so anyhow, a few days later, I'm going to a liquor store and I'm getting liquor. And I'm with this guy, the screenwriter of Shark Apocalyptic now or whatever it was. And she calls me, my ex-wife, and she's like, oh my God, some guy, a Hispanic guy, came to our door and he's like, where is your husband? And I think he wants to fight you. You should fuck his ass up. And I'm like, well, who was it? What do you mean some Mexican dude showed up and wants to beat me up? What does that mean? How do you know that? She's like, I think it's the guy whose car I marked with the marker. I'm like, told you that would have come back to haunt us. This was only a few days after. He probably figured it out. He probably went to and saw my car and like saw the Sharpie marks on my car, saw the Sharpie marks on his car, and like put two and two together, and then figured out which apartment my slot was assigned to. So, you know, I tell the screenwriter, I'm like, I'm already drunk, and I get more combative when I drink. Although, like I said last time, I don't slur, I don't stumble, but I just get more down for physical altercations, you know? I mean, I've gotten in quite a few of them at bars just because I'm wasted, and like I'm sure you can imagine, I run my mouth, and I'm this 5'11" little guy. I'm 5'6", and I usually get beat up because I'm not that good at fighting. I'm better now that I'm older, so I just don't care anymore. But back then, I 2016, I was all right. I was fearless though. So I'm telling the screenwriter, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fuck this Mexican dude up. Da, 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 da. I was like, I have a switchblade in my house, and I'm gonna stab him. I'm probably saying this for attention, but he's like, Ryan, are you serious? You want to stab him? It's your fault. I'm like, fuck that fool. He went and showed up to my wife and kid's house. It wasn't even my kid, but like, you know, I'm claiming that it's my kid. Went to my wife and kid's place without me, and he tried to like start static. I'm going to go stab him. Again, I think it was more for effect. But he was like really, you know, this is like a relatively conservative guy. Definitely hasn't been in the lifestyle. He hasn't been in the game. He has certainly not been to prison. And he's fascinated with me initially, but it turns into a horror show, you know? And this is one of many things that ultimately made him leave. I go back there and, this guy had told her which apartment I was in. And, or this guy had told her what apartment he was in. Sorry, it's late. And so I go and I knock on the door. I have my switchblade. It's like one of those like switchblades where you like press the handle and it like comes straight out. It's like some gimmicky one. Not even like I don't even think you could like stab somebody with that. It's just more for like show. And, you know, I'm definitely one of those guys that bluffs a lot. And when people call my hand, I usually get fucked off. But I was going to like go to him and like do some movie moment stuff. Like switch out the switchblade and be like, knife fight or something. And so I knock on this guy's door. A white girl comes out. Now, it's probably judgmental for me to compartmentalize this white girl, but she looked like a prostitute, and I would be willing to bet a lot of money that she was, you know, because I don't know, maybe that sounds racist, but this guy was like this little short paisa, and like she was like this busty bimbo white chick. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but I forget what the guy's name was. Ronaldo, not Ronaldo, but is so-and-so here? And she's like, no, he's not here. What's up? I am holding the switchblade, and the screenwriter guy is like, I'm telling him, like, you need to stand point. He's like, what does that mean? I'm like, stand at the top of the tier. He's like, the what? I'm like, the staircase. Wait up there, and if you see any cops, yell channel check. And he's like, what the fuck? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna stab him. I'm all drunk, and I'm probably like coked out too. I don't really remember, but he's standing there like an obedient, little bitch. And, this guy wasn't there. So I end up going back up. And honestly, I never came across that guy again. I never saw him in the complex. He never showed up again. I have no idea what the deal was. But one day I went out to my car. I was driving an X5 Beamer. People would be like, you love to say you have an X5. That was one of the nicest cars that I had. And So yes, I do like saying that. It was a nice car, and one day my door just magically didn't work anymore. Seemed like somebody had like, I don't know what they could have possibly done, but you couldn't open the handle anymore. The handle was like bent a little bit, and you just couldn't open the door at all. You know, like my ex-wife used to have to like crawl through the window to get in. And really anybody that I drove around with had to do that, but it was more awkward for her because she was a woman, and it just looked ridiculous. She'd be in like a skirt and like crawling through the window, and her ass would show up. I'm like, dude, you could go in the back seat. And she's like, no, I want Tylenol 3s. So, anyway, I'm still working for Asher, and I closed maybe 3 more deals. You know, they weren't as big as the first one was like over $100,000 deal. I got over 10 grand in commission for the first deal. The other ones that I got were like, I think it was like a $30,000 system, 25,000. They were still pretty significant checks. Had money coming in, but my heroin habit was just growing and growing and growing. Now my wife's on heroin, so like my habit's, you know, twice as expensive as it was. We're also doing coke, we're doing speedballs, which I had like sworn off in my early 20s. That's my favorite combination of substances. IV cocaine and heroin. IV cocaine and heroin. God, it's like so late that I'm just really like mixing. My thoughts are just so all over the place right now. I'm trying, guys. So I remember this like it was yesterday. I go out to one of my leads. So, you know, the dispatcher at the call center had given me a spot. It was at night, I remember, and it was in Pasadena, which is the San Gabriel Valley, I think. Somewhere east of LA. I could be totally wrong. I'm bad with geography, but Pasadena, probably know what that is. You probably heard of it. A little like suburban area that's, you know, like 15 miles from downtown LA or something, 20 miles. And it was a nice house, and I was doing a sales pitch, and I'm doing the whole thing, and I didn't close it. You know, I gave them the price. It was like $27,000, and they're like, someone gave us a better quote. I'm like, can you tell me what it was? And they're like, it was $22,000. And I'm like doing the commission, and I couldn't go below par. You know, par is like the lowest you can go. And I think my par on that one was like 26 or 25,000. You usually know what your par is, and you don't go below that. And you kind of know in your mind, like, okay, if my par is 25,000, I'll start at 30. And if that doesn't work, we'll keep doing price drops and try to get them. We'll try to close them before we get to par. Because when you get to par, I think it's like 8%. And then everything above that, it goes up like in sequential order. So I remember I didn't close it, and I end up leaving. And as I'm getting in my car, my ex-wife calls me, and she's in a complete panic. And she's like, oh my God, I don't want to say his name, so-and-so left. Blocked me on Facebook, blocked me on Instagram. The screenwriter had taken off. He like went AWOL on us. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, oh my God, I think it's because he knew that we were shooting heroin and he's going to call CPS. I'm like, what? And so I try calling him, straight to voicemail. You know, it's blocked. You can tell if a number's blocked if you try calling, like if it goes straight to voicemail when you're calling from your phone, and then you like put star 67 in front of the number and call. If it rings when it's a block call, when you block your number like that, then you know that you're blocked. Or you can call from a different phone number. So he had blocked me. I go on Facebook. He doesn't exist anymore. Blocked me on that. Instagram, I think it tells you if you're blocked. And I'm just like, dude, it was sketchy. The guy was living with us for like 2 weeks, and suddenly he takes off. And he didn't say anything to us. She's really tripped out. I mean, she like really, really, really thinks that that CPS is going to get called. We already have an open case with them. Kid's going to get taken, and she's spooked. So I go home, I'm trying to call him from like neighbors' phones and stuff. He's not picking up. You know, he's seeing like 818 numbers. We're in the valley, and he's just, I'm sure he knows that it's us. I'm starting to get a little spooked too. I mean, I'm on federal probation. I'm like, he could, I don't, hate to say it, but I really didn't care what happened to her or her kid. I cared more about the fact that I could go to prison if he tells my PO even like one of 100 felonies that I've committed in front of him in the 2 weeks that he lived there. So I pulled this up on my mom's phone. The next day, I end up getting an email from him. And this email is so classic. I remember, for any of you that listen to my album, the first director of my documentary was a guy named Zach Warren. And when I showed him, like when I texted him a copy of this email or forwarded whatever I did, he was like, "Oh my God, that's a gem, bro." Like, it's weird. Any like footage or anything like this that's like really hardcore, directors, now we have another director who's the same way. If I send him like a super shot out picture of me, he's like, "Gold, bro, gold." I'm like, all right, cool. So this particular letter was the day after he left. And this is a pretty hardcore letter. So he goes, "Ryan, this will be the last time that I contact you. I see no point in responding to most of your accusations, as I feel they comprise a host of delusional, self-serving, misplaced blame. Unfortunately, this is just part of a repeated pattern that I immediately noticed with you. In the 2.5 weeks during which I stayed with you, I gave you every benefit of the doubt, and you let me down every single time. After the 3rd consecutive day of you making excuses for not working on the script, all of which amounted to you being too wasted to sit down and actually work, I realized that you misrepresented yourself as being in recovery and that you were entirely incapable of doing any of the work that we had discussed. The final straw was your escalation into bringing a mass quantity of drugs into the apartment." I have no idea what he's talking about right there. Mass quantity of drugs. I don't remember that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I don't remember that. The final straw was your escalation into bringing a mass quantity of drugs into the apartment, followed your, that's a typo. So followed by your predictable slide into doing heroin again. Kind of like kicking a guy when he's down, like, Anyway, in a short time, I experienced the following. And he does this like list of like all the horrible things that he had endured in this brief stay at my apartment, trying to like adapt my book into a film. Not all this stuff's funny. I mean, there was an innocent, blameless child involved, and in retrospect, now that I'm away from it, I definitely feel guilty for what I did to this kid. I've told my wife, Karina, that if I make it, if I become rich, I'm definitely going to open that kid a trust account. Make sure that he's taken care of when he's 18. Make sure his mom doesn't get a cent of it. But I feel like morally I owe that to him. So he goes, "In a short time, I experienced the following: cleaning blood and vomit off a toilet seat so that a 4-year-old could use the bathroom. Feeding that same 4-year-old on numerous occasions when neither you nor," I'm going to edit this, "my ex-wife had the facility to do so. Trying to placate, is it placate or placate? Placate this child after you told him you and his mom were discussing his birthday present when you were in actuality shooting heroin together. Carefully avoiding used needles that you left in the cupboard next to the dishes. Trying to talk you down from assaulting a fellow tenant who is rightfully upset after you hit his car and then blatantly lied about it. I didn't lie about it. I never even talked to the guy about it. See? It wasn't all my fault. Some of this is just a misunderstanding. Walked into you having a panicky meltdown after you thought the illegal liquid Xanax that you sold to someone may have resulted in his death. Now, this part is true. I sold that liquid Xanax, which we've talked about, to this idiot kid, and then I didn't hear from him for like 2 weeks or something, 3 weeks. No Facebook activity, no calls, and he wasn't a kid. I mean, he was like 25, but his mom had put him in rehab, and I thought he died. And, this screenwriter guy came in. I was like, "Oh my God, I killed somebody." He's like, "What?" I was like, and I like explained it to him. But the way he says it, he walked into you having a panicky meltdown after you thought the illegal liquids annex you sold to someone may have resulted in his death. Listening to you rationalize the near constant barrage. I said barrage of dicks in the beginning of this. The near constant barrage of verbal assaults and emotional abuse you piled on your wife, in spite of the fact that you were siphoning money from her on a daily basis to feed your own drug and alcohol problem. Now, this is not true. I was making the money at the time, but I'm sure that she spun it a different way to him. Like, he takes all of my money because I'm typically on check systems. I usually don't have I'm not like the most bankable person out there, if that makes sense. I usually have beefs with most banks that I bank with, and they usually cut me off. Like, we went to Bank of America the other day, and they're like, you can open an account in 2020 because then your delinquencies will go away. Like all these checks that you cash that you didn't have funds in your bank to cash. But what junkie hasn't done that? You write yourself a check and go deposit in the ATM and get a little advance from it, and then you've just pretty much overdrawn your account with checks that you knew were bogus because they're from yourself, and then the bank tends to frown on that kind of stuff. But so all my money was in her bank account at the time, I think. So, it's like now all my money is in either PayPal or Karina's bank account, and I don't have another debit card, so I have to hey, can I use the debit card? And that's how it was then. So I think he misinterpreted that as me, what did he say? Siphoning money. Not true. Failing to get any sleep before work due to you being so far gone that you endlessly paced the apartment. He had just moved from, he driven cross country from South Carolina, and he had no money. So I got him a job as a telemarketer at my calling center. And he goes, failing to get any sleep before work due to you being so far gone that you endlessly pace the apartment. Whatever. Being told that I could not shower at 7:30 a.m. before work because you and, again, I'm censoring this, your ex-wife were having sex after an all-night heroin binge. Maybe. And that's just off the top of my head, he says. I lasted 2.5 weeks in this chaotic, nightmarish environment, which is more than most would have. I did not discuss my leaving with you as I was already full aware of the manipulative arguments and faux rationalizations you would present. You burned the bridge, I only jumped over its remains. It's actually very good prose, very good writing, very unexpected from someone that only wrote garbage-ass movie. While I have no intention of informing authorities of your actions, my best course was to get far away from you for the sake of my own safety. You're certainly entitled to make whatever choices you wish to in life, but I cannot and will not be associated with you either a personal or professional level. Big loss, buddy. Man, we don't associate. That sucks. You were my loftiest friend. Fucking pretentious fuck. That said, I sincerely hope that you do get help. Yeah, after you berate me for an entire email, but honestly, I care about you, bro. For the sake of yourself and for your family, I urge you to check into rehab and embark upon a genuine recovery. I'm not kidding when I send you my best wishes. I certainly hope you are able to get clean. Regardless, I cannot be anywhere near you. Take care and good luck. This is my favorite. This is the best part of the email. He goes, P.S. There's no need to respond to this as I'm blocking your email as soon as I send it. Peace. Sent from my iPhone, it says. I don't even think he had an iPhone. I think he just wrote that to fucking sound like he had one. Anyway, I thought I would share that because that's pretty much an indictment on the way I was living back then. And that's someone else's words. I didn't write that. That's a real email that I got from him at that time. And I've talked about a lot of the stuff that he's talking about in that. But she freaked out. She freaked out. And, she's like, I need to get sober. And I'm just like, I'm nodded out on the couch. And I'm just like, She's like, he's going to call CPS. They're going to drug test me. I'm going to come up dirty for heroin. They're going to take my kid. So I'm like, yeah, I support you. You know, whatever you want to do. You want to go to rehab? Cool. And she's like, I need you to go to rehab too. We'll both be sober. And it's like, yeah, let's do it. So we go to sleep that night. I wake up the next morning and she's gone. She took off with the kid. Call her phone straight to voicemail. Now, at that time, I don't want to get into this part of this story because there's still civil litigation going on right now with this. But basically, I had made statements on fake, drunk as fuck, talking about somebody famous that I knew. And they were going through like a really high profile divorce at the time. And I had a friend, I was backing up the husband because the wife was lying. They're both really famous people. And I'm like, no, that's bullshit. I knew the wife before she was anybody. She was like a B-list actress when I knew her. And I didn't know the husband at the time. I'd go on this tirade on Facebook about it. Like, just talking about what a narcissistic sociopath she is. And I kind of forgot about it. Next day, it's published in like 30 different tabloids. It's all over the place saying that I'm this famous actress's drug dealer, which is true. I mean, I didn't make any of this stuff up. And about my ex-wife and her kid took off. Same day that happened, I get contacted by this well-known actor's attorney. And they're like, hey, I work for this law firm and we saw these statements that you made and we want to call you in because we want you to do a deposition. And I'm like, this really isn't the time. And they're like, well, it's for so-and-so and, he'd be really appreciative if you could come do it. So I go to like this probably like the nicest law firm I've ever gone to. It's in Beverly Hills. And I mean, I'm so preoccupied in my mind because she just left me and I hate being alone. I mean, ever since I did all that time in the hole in prison, it's hard for me to be alone. It's just like, I get very uncomfortable being alone because that's when my inner thoughts start to attack me. And I start to really internalize everything that's going on. Just deep introspection. It almost feels like a bad part of an acid trip where I start thinking about all the mistakes I've made, pain that I've caused my parents, pain that I'm causing my wife, bimbo bitch with fake tits, and her kid. That was definitely a source of guilt only when I was alone. See, when I'm not alone, I don't shut up. Like I talk the way I do like on these videos, and that can be very overbearing sometimes. My energy is intense. Sometimes people just can't. They're just like, man, shut the fuck up. People tell me that pretty frequently, especially if they're like close enough with me where they know it won't offend me. But I'm hypersensitive. I think most artists are. And when I'm alone, the self-loathing really kicks in. So I think one of the reasons I went to the attorney's office in the first place was just not to be alone. But I was preoccupied. And when I was leaving this, the attorney wanted me to do a deposition, go to court and be like, yeah, I did cocaine with this person. I sold them drugs. I'm like, dude, I'm on federal probation. There's no way I'm fucking saying that in a court of law. No way. I was never convicted of that. I'm not saying that on the record. I don't care who it's for. I'm just not going to do it. And, also it's like I fundamentally had this idea ingrained in my mind that anything like that is snitching. Like I've never cooperated with law enforcement. I've never made statements against anybody. And, it's just something that I really, it's one of the few morals that I have, it's like, I don't like to get people in trouble. I think that's some bitch shit, So, I don't know. The whole thing was, I pretty much said no. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I end up leaving there. Ex-wife calls me. And I'm like, where are you? And she's like, I'm in Orange County with one of my family members. And I'm like, now she had told me that the last time that she was in Orange County, that's when she started doing the prostitution. So I don't know if other people can relate with this. I talk about this a lot in June Gloom, my book that's coming out this summer. This is something that prison noticeably affected me with. I've always been paranoid. I've always been jealous. I've always been controlling. When I was like 18, it was like out of control how bad I was. And then, when I was with Jenny, that was like the first, now that was not a healthy relationship by any means, but it was like the first time where I was comfortable having a separate life. I wasn't so controlling where I like wanted to, I wasn't as domineering as I had been with the relationship before that. And then I went to prison, and my paranoia, my jealousy, my controlling tendencies were exasperated. I always say that word wrong. I don't know if I did right now, but they were amplified. The paranoia, the jealousy was just so much more intense. This marriage that I'm talking about certainly didn't help either, because she really was a hoe. And she really was doing sketchy shit behind my back, which I'll get into as these videos unfold a little more. But one thing that I noticed after I got out of prison is that I would get trigger words. I mean, it was crazy. Like, most time when I meet a girl, because of how honest I can be at times, I mean, I can be brutally honest, like sometimes I just don't care. I think that that's probably because I've been such a liar at other points in my life that it's almost like paying moral taxes. So I found that I have, because I'm such an open book, women tend to be confessional with me. They tend to tell me sexual secrets right in the beginning. Threesomes, lesbian experiences, prostitution, butt fucking conga lines, whatever the case is, they tend to tell me right when we meet. Because I'm always, a lot of women have said this. They're like, you're easy to fall in love with, but you're impossible to date. And I say that I give Karina a lot of credit, although I have to say I am much more healthy with her. I trust her. She wrote a term out with me, and I trust her, Like, I see her put other guys on blast all the time and try to get at her, stuff like that. I don't know. I trust her more than other women. But, girls will tell me these things. They'll tell me their little sexual secrets because I'm so, like, kicked back in the beginning. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit, like, whatever. And then when I fall in love, I'm like, you fucking whore. And I start having these trigger words. Now, I talked about this in the sample of June Gloom, but I start having these trigger words. Like, one, it's like, this is like a common one for me. I get like jealous of, someone that they dated before me. And maybe they lived together in Alaska. Every time the word Alaska comes up, if I read it in a magazine, if someone says it on TV, this like weird like trigger goes off, and I'm like, Alaska? You fucking slut. And we can be like getting along, and just this weird like insecurities just start spewing out of me like venom. And chicks are usually like, what? And I'm like, you're a whore. I like rip my shirt off and start like dancing. No, but I start acting very bizarre because the word triggers me. I process it, I internalize it, and then 0 to 100, and usually verbal abuse, because I've explained this to like therapists. It's like I get that fighting, that fight or flight mentality from prison. It's like they're hurting me, although it's inadvertent. My response is to fight. And the way that I fight is, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back worse. And I'm talking about emotionally. So she had told me when we first started dating, she's like, yeah, I used to be we didn't really date. We married right from the get-go. But when our relationship first formed, she's like, yeah, I was a prostitute in Orange County. YOLO. I'm like, what? I don't think I was cool with it when she first told me. I was like, what do you mean a prostitute? And then she like would tell me these crazy stories. She'd be like, one night I fucked 5 guys in one night. And like, these are things that like once they're said, they're cemented in my mind. And I'm just like, I look at her and I can literally see the ghost of 5 Johns, like, you know, hovering over her. And she's just sucking all their dicks. She's like, yeah, shit it everywhere. I'm just like, oh my God, you're such a slut. I can't love you. I can't love you because you're just, you gross me out. And so that took me a long time to figure out like how to like manage those kind of triggers. Orange County was one of them because she told me that her story was that she had moved out from Denver to Orange County, and she like had lost her job at one point, and she got recruited by some high class escort service. Girls always say that too. They're like, I was recruited by a high class escort service. And when you think of that, you think of like, you know, Secret Service looking guys like in tuxedos, like knocking delicately like on some, your escort is here, sir, like some butler shit. That's not what it was. Come on. Girls that say that were you know, selling themselves on Craigslist, back pages, stuff like that, in my experience. So as soon as she says Orange County, I'm just, you know, I'm enraged, like, you know, get off the phone, and I'm, you know, like, she tells me Orange County, I hang up on her, you know, of course I can't hold my tongue, like, you're a fucking whore, I hope you fucking die. And she's just like, you know, she's trying to come back or something, because she tells me that when she was in Orange County, like I said, she was recruited by a high-class escort service, and now she's telling me that she leaves me and goes to hang out with family in Orange County that I've never even heard of. It's like, Orange County's like 40 minutes from LA. Why haven't you ever brought up that you have family before? In fact, usually she was telling me how alone she was, how I rely on you, because we get in fights. I'd be like, you're kicked out. She's like, and she'd go up to her kid. She's like, come on, he's kicking us out. We're going to have to go sleep on the street. She's telling a 4 or 5-year-old kid this. He was 4 when we met, 5 like when we split ways. She's, okay, we're going to have to go sleep in a box. She'd like tell him this, and the kid's like terrified. I'm like, okay, yeah, you guys don't have to leave. I'm just saying stupid. Don't bring the kid into this. Some real like 50s like domestic violence type atmosphere, even though I never put hands on her. But I was super emotionally abusive. I regret that. I'm finally in a relationship where I'm not like that. But at that point, that's just how I was. And whatever. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. I was a piece of shit at that point in my life. And anyway, so I ended up drinking myself into oblivion. And I got to a point where I actually was slurring. If I drink enough, I'm like, you know, I mean, I get like anyone. I'll start slurring, and my central nervous system's all fucked up. Equilibrium's off. Slurring, I'm stumbling. She ends up calling me back, and I'd calm down, because usually that's what happens. The trigger kind of elevates my anger, and then it slowly descends back down, and then like I'm back to normal. I'm some schizo shit. I'm like, yeah, fucking cunt. I fucking hope next time you stick your fingers down your throat, you choke on it and die, you bulimic bitch. And then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I love you, sweetheart. You're so beautiful. Oh my God, you know. Then girls are like, you know, most girls I've dated like have serious daddy issues, and if they don't, then they probably don't date me. I mean, that's pretty much the commonality. One I'm with now doesn't have daddy issues, and that's probably why we get along. I was going to make a book one time called Thank God for Daddy Issues. That's what I wanted to call June Gloom, and I like pitched it to my literary agent at the time, and she's like, dude, that is so tacky. No big publisher is going to take that. I'm like, thought it was like the best name at the time, but yeah, we'll do a short story collection like that and self-publish it. But we end up talking again, and she's telling me that she's in Orange County with family or whatever, and that she wants to come back. She wants to come home, but that I have to quit drinking, and then I have to quit doing heroin. I'm like, I'm already on Suboxone again. Not true. I've been shooting heroin. She's only been gone for like maybe, you know, 24 hours at this point, but like, yeah, I didn't stop doing it just because she left. In fact, I was doing it more. I was drinking more. I'm slurring to her while I'm talking. She's like, listen, you sound completely hammered right now. I'm like, I'm so lonely. I miss you so much. And she's like, check it out. I will come back. I'm not going to use anymore. I'm not going to drink. And I need you to be sober to support that decision. I'm like, absolutely. And, you know, I sound handicapped at the time. I am. I'm handicapped by how wasted I am. And she's like, check it out. Sober up. Come get me in the morning. I was like, all right. And I probably passed out. So next day I wake up. I want her back. I mean, I'm lonely. It has nothing to do with her. I didn't love her. This was unfettered codependency. So I don't drink that morning because I can't conceal that. I stink like alcohol when I drink. That's the one thing about drinking. It's very hard to conceal that smell. At least when you're drinking. If you're drinking like more than a fifth a day, you reek of alcohol. I don't care who you are. So I don't drink. Usually I wake up and I'm drinking right out of the freezer. Like first thing, before I even smoke a cigarette. And like for years, I wouldn't do anything without a cigarette. Now I don't do anything without alcohol at that point. And so I don't drink that morning. Wake up and I immediately don't feel good. Like within 30 minutes of being awake, I'm like, even though I shot heroin, I still don't feel well because the alcohol, I'm so dependent on the alcohol at that point that like I'm already feeling it. I'm shaky, everything, you know, classic alcoholic symptoms. I have the shakes. I remember like trying to put the key in my ignition and it was like shaking and I was like, oh my God, can't you die from this? I'm like Googling it. It's like what can happen from delirium tremens? It's like death is like the second bullet. I'm like, holy fuck. As soon as she gets back, I'm just trying to like reel her back in and then I'm going to get a drink. That's my plan. So I go to Orange County. I go hang out with her, or I go pick her up at her cousin's house. They're Mexican. And it's like some Mexican fool, all like super swole with like prison tattoos all over him, and some Mexican chick. I'm like, there's no way these are your cousins, but whatever. I don't even care. Just come with me. And she's like, okay, come on. She grabs her kid. And she kisses me and she's like, oh my God, this is like one of the only times that you haven't reeked of booze. I'm like, yeah, baby, I'm about getting sober right now. She doesn't know that I've been like doing IV heroin, you know? She thinks I'm on subs now. So we drive back to LA and I remember we stopped at a liquor store so I could get cigarettes and I went in there. I could have gotten alcohol right there and then, but I didn't. I just got cigarettes and like I did that more as like for the symbolism behind it. Like I went to a liquor store and I didn't get booze. And she was like, wow. She was like really impressed. So she goes with me home and I'm like really white knuckling it. I mean, I'm trying so hard not to drink. We get home and I'm thinking like at any moment, I'm going to be able to go outside because I usually would get on the phone and like call people and just walk around the block and I'd stop at a liquor store and get stuff. And at this point, the local liquor stores in North Hollywood were giving me like credit lines, like if you go to a liquor store enough, they'll give you a tab. I had tabs like everywhere. I didn't even need cash. And I knew that because I knew she was going to like try to confiscate the debit card. And I was like, whatever, I can still go, you know, I can go on a walk and be able to get booze. So I'm like, hey, honey, I'm gonna go on a walk. And she's like, no, you're not. You know what you're going to do if you go walk. You're going right to the liquor store. You're going to buy a fifth. And you're going to throw away all the progress you made. Don't have like light shakes anymore. I'm like full on like, you know, doing the boogie woogie. I'm sick. I'm dope sick off alcohol. And furthermore, it's like really hard to shoot heroin at this point. Like, she's on it. She knows my little tricks. She knows if I'm in the bathroom for more than 3 or 4 minutes, I'm sticking a needle in myself. It is what it is. So I'm just kind of sitting there. I do get a couple shots of heroin in throughout the day. Time's going by, still shaking. And finally, I just lay on the bed. And I kind of sit there. It's very, very, very hard to sleep when you're kicking alcohol. But somehow I managed to go to sleep. And people probably know this story from the album. I've also told it, I think, on a live. But I woke up middle of the night, so I did sleep for a while, and I was probably 4 or 5 feet away from the bed. And what had happened, I had no idea what was going on. I just woke up flopping like a fish. I was in severe pain. You know, for any of you that's gone through delirium tremens, you know you start getting buggy hallucinations. Kind of looks like static on a TV, but that's what the walls look like. And I'm just tripping out. I'm like, I'm flopping. And I'm like, what happened? And she's like, oh my God, you had a seizure. You flopped your way over here. And I can't even imagine. I probably look like a mermaid or something. I don't even know how you can flap out of bed, but I'm in the middle of the carpet. And I'm like, I need alcohol. I probably look like, you know, like just a straight up alcoholic zombie. I'm like, I need alcohol. And she's like, honey, it's like 3 a.m. We can't get any alcohol. I'm like, I have wine in the cupboard. She's like, I got rid of it. I'm like, what? And I'm tripping because in California, they stop selling alcohol at 2 a.m. And they don't start serving it again, I think, till 6. 6. Some places will sell liquor, but I didn't know places around there that would do it. You know, that's illegal to do. And I'm freaking out. I'm looking for anything that has alcohol in it. And I found some cologne. Actually, I think I found Listerine first. I like had this big thing of Listerine, and I'm just like, ah. And she's just like, wow, you're pathetic. And I'm like, and like, I'm literally shaking. Listerine's like pouring all over me. This like blue stuff's going all over my clothes. And it made me feel like a little bit better. The little remnants of alcohol that are, you know, that were still in my system are like keeping me from not dying at this point. And I think that the Listerine kind of soothed me to a point. And then I got a bottle of cologne, and I just was like, can't you drink? I've heard alcoholics talk about this in rehab because I had. I'm like, can you go blind from that? I'm like, Google it. And she's like Googling it. I'm like, I don't even give a fuck. And I just like take the little stem thing off, and I'm like, pounding cologne, which is, it's like somebody shooting a flamethrower down your throat. I'm like, I'm just like coughing, but I'd rather be pounding cologne than feel the way that I'm feeling. And I kind of felt a little better, and I just like went in bed and like put a sheet around myself, and I woke up in the morning. And that day was her son's 5th birthday. And most of you know what happened to me that day. I wake up, and she had gotten me a pint of Jack Daniels. You know, I woke up, I don't know, 8 or 9 in the morning, and she had a pint of Jack for me. And she's like, check it out. I'm giving you alcohol. I know that you need it just to like function, but I want you to check into this place in West LA. It's a rehab detox. It's a detox, and then there's like a 30-day residential. Are you willing to do that? And she'd gotten my literary agent involved, who's a recovering alcoholic, and I kind of like had like, you know, I mean, literary agent lived in New York, but they're kind of having this group intervention on me. You know, agent on the phone, wife pleading for me to go to treatment. I really had no choice. I was just like, yeah, rehab for sure. And I couldn't find my heroin. I don't know, I think I had like a gram or something left, and I just couldn't find it anywhere. To this day, she probably found it and flushed it, or, you know, whatever. She was back on Suboxone, or she was on Suboxone. She'd never been on it before, but she had transitioned. And, you know, because she took a bunch of them before she had left, and now she's on subs, and she thinks I'm on subs, but I'm not. And we had agreed that I was going to go to treatment, but that I would hang out and take her kid to Chuck E. Cheese that day for his birthday. She got me the pint so I could get through the day, and then check into detox that night. Is the plan. I don't know why when I do stories, my cigarettes always go out. You know, I don't know what's going on. But, so anyway, I was like, hey, I have a present for your kid. One of my friends was a pro skateboarder at the time. And, you know, he skated for like a pretty decent sized company. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go meet up with so-and-so. I'm going to get a skateboard deck for your kid. She's like, okay. I mean, she already gave me the pint, so I don't think she suspected that I was going to get more heroin. That's what I was doing. And my connection at that time was this chick that was dating this other guy, and the guy was solid. You know, I'd call him. He lived in Winnetka, and I'd call him and be like, I need a gram. And he would deliver it to me, and he was like clockwork. He was always on time, and he was just a good dude to buy drugs from. I mean, you know how it is. There's certain people that are cool to get stuff from, and then there's certain people, and they're like, yeah, I'll be there in an hour. You're like, cool. And you call them, and you can hear like the pulsating beat of like a nightclub, and you can hear all these like different ambient sounds of like people talking at the nightclub. You're like, where are you? He's like, oh, yeah, dude, I'm at the gas station. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Or I'm getting off on your exit right now. And you're like, all right, cool. Hour and a half goes by. You call, it goes straight to voicemail. And you're like, oh, you're like all dope sick. And then you're like, maybe I'll just text him, because maybe the text will reach him even though his phone's off. Or right when he turns his phone on, then the text will be there. And it's not like these people forget about you. They just don't care. They know that you need them more than they need you. So you're on their time. That guy wasn't like that, but his girlfriend was the worst I've ever seen. I mean, there were times where she always made me wait like 2 hours. And Winnetka was probably, with traffic, it's like 30, 40 minutes, sometimes an hour from North Hollywood, even though it's probably 9 miles or something, And that's just how LA is. The valley, it just depends on what time you're traveling. So there were times where like we always met at this like pharmacy, the parking lot, and like there were times that I went there, she took 2 hours to see me. There were times that I went there and she never even showed up. She'd be like, I'm sorry, I forgot. She was like the most manly girl I've ever known, ever. And I know like I'm friends with a lot of gay and lesbian, so I'm friends with a lot of lesbian women. I know like lesbian women that have male mannerisms. This girl was bisexual, but she was like a full-on dude. She would always be sagging her pants and like have this nasty, plumber's crack thing. And this girl was so gross. And I couldn't stand. I mean, it was not just the physical; it's just her personality was so bogus. Can't stand people that do this kind of shit. So, I like leave my apartment. I call her. I'm like, hey, can you hook up a gram? I'm like whispering, even though I'm like walking to my car. There's like no point to whisper. But when you're already in that mind frame, you tend to do stuff like that. And she's like, yeah, come by. I'm like, listen, I'm on a time budget right now. I can't have what you normally do to me. What you typically do to me is unacceptable. She's like, oh, yeah. For sure. I'm not doing anything today. I'm like, all right, cool. So I get in the car. I head that way. And probably, like I even though I know how to get there, I always put stuff on the GPS just to know like what the time count, if I know it's going to be an hour, especially in LA, like 9 miles takes an hour. You want to put in the GPS so it'll like calculate that and you'll know what you're looking at, just so you have point of reference for how much time you're going to be taking. And my GPS was like, 50 minutes or something. It was like almost an hour to get there. So I'm driving and it's like, I get to about the 40-minute mark and I call her to let her know that I'm about to be there. And she's like, dude, I'm so sorry. I forgot it's Sunday and I have to go visit my boyfriend at Wayside, which is like an extension of LA County Jail. It's kind of it's in Valencia or in that area, kind of by where Ronaldo or Happy was stuff, where that guy lived with Jessica, kind of by Canyon Country, Santa Clarita. It's in that area, which is like way out. I mean, I'm like, but I'm willing to go to her. I'm like, did you bring anything? She's like, no, I'm not going to bring anything to jail. I'm like, why didn't you call me and tell me? And we're getting this like big argument about it. And she's like, you know what? I don't have time for that. And she hangs up and I'm just like, I'm livid, right? So I get I turn around and I get off, get back on, and I start going south on the 101, going back to North Hollywood, and I am pissed off. I'm like, I'm literally enraged, and I'm driving really fast, and I'm just dope sick, super upset, and probably going like 80, 90. See some traffic that's like slowing down, so I like probably bring it down to 60, and my ex-wife starts blowing my phone up, texting me, "Where are you, you junkie?" And I'm like texting her, and I'm like, "Don't worry, I'm getting the skateboard deck." I had no skateboard deck. I had no idea. I really did have a pro skater friend though that lived like one exit away from me, so I was texting him earlier seeing if he had decks that he could give me, and he did. So that was like my whole plan, was like to go get the heroin, go get the deck, go to Chuck E. Cheese, and then go to this coerced rehab thing that I had to do. I was mad about it, and also when you're on federal probation, it's like I couldn't even. Detox is tricky. You can't really tell your PO that you're going to detox or rehab ahead of time because they'll violate you. But if you're in treatment and then you call, like I'd always pull the dual diagnosis. Well, it's my mental health, man. I'm just trying to get squared away. I don't want to be a JCAT anymore. JCAT in California means you're a loony. It's like a prison term. Also, somebody commented on my Facebook and they said P-shot, which is slang for Palabra. P-shot. Someone's like a real convict if they say P-shot or if they know what that is. Anyway, just lacing you guys up. So I'm texting her and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm getting this deck. I'm not really paying attention on the road. And I text I love you to her, and that's the last thing that I did. I look up and the cars that are ahead of me just start slowing down entirely, like coming to a complete halt. I'm like, oh, fuck. And I go to slam on my brakes, and it was one of those things where it's probably like 15 feet. No, that's probably not true. I tailgate people. I'm a horrible driver. It's probably closer than that. Whatever it was, I slammed on my brakes and my car skid a little bit and just hit this car that was in front of me. That car hit another car and it accordioned the car that I hit. So it was in the middle of us. We sandwiched it and just accordioned it, and totaled that car. My car, I didn't know if it was fucked up, and then he hit a minivan in front of us. I already told this story on the album, but it's just important for the chronology of events that are about to, unfold. This is how I went back to federal prison for the second time. And we're past an hour, it's the middle of the night. I'm going to go get some sleep because I have stuff I got to do in the morning. I'm on a pretty strict writing schedule right now. But I appreciate you guys. Please buy the album. $10. Stop saying I'm begging. I'll just block you if you say that. I hate. It's like, man, starving artist, straight up, and I'm trying to make it right now, and I'm doing a good job considering I have some obstacles that I need to overcome. But I forgot what I was saying. Who cares? Just buy the album. Palabra.